Anybody familiar with the chicken sandwich wars of 2019? Anybody? It's when Popeyes launched the chicken sandwich and everybody basically went crazy over it. No. I'm utilizing this example to highlight one key concept. It's called your USP, your unique selling point. So when Popeyes launched this this new product, everybody else followed suit. There was a lot of hype around it. Everybody followed through. Everybody tried to replicate. Everybody tried to do their own spin. That's similar to you trying to get your own advantage in the field that you want to enter. You need to have your own selling points. You all will theoretically graduate with the same degrees, right? With the same mandatory internships. What differentiates you are different factors such as grades, experience, internships, etc. Right? Does that make sense? As somebody who hires a lot of people regularly, what I look at are not your grades, are not the orgs that you join, but the things that you do beyond what school requires you. That tells me individualized leadership, curiosity, and the ability to adapt to shifting environments. If you just follow everything the curriculum says and do nothing on your own time, you don't do self-directed leadership, self-directed learning, what's the point? Right? You're just going to be a hung and dry employee. Okay. Move forward. So, you can take a picture of this slide. Competitive advantage simply means what makes you different, what makes you more attractive compared to everybody else with the exact same degree. It ensures that you don't become obsolete, right? The standard is pretty simple. Look at the people on your left and look at the people on your right. These are your course mates. These are your friends. But when it comes to job applications, nobody cares. Right? Now you compare. What makes this person better than me? What makes this person more qualified than me? Your first metric will be grades. But if you think about it, has this person ever taken an internship that wasn't required? An extra work opportunity, applied for an exchange program, applied for a scholarship for a miniature course? That makes sense to you? Now, if you were hiring, who would you pick? Somebody who's the same as everybody else, or somebody who went the extra mile to get more experience, knows what they want better, and actually shows self-directed leadership? Who would you pick? Sir, who would you pick?
Well, I think everyone can agree with me here. I'll pick someone who's experienced because not only they have the skills for it,
Right?
they have the drive for it without someone else requiring them to do it.
But the problem is not everybody does that. Everybody just wants to comply and finish school. And hopefully there's a job waiting for them because they're in a top 4 school. Right? That was the myth that was sold to me when I applied, but there'll be a job waiting for you after. It's the employers that will run after you. Never happened. Unless you differentiate yourself, unless you build relationships with potential permanent job positions through internships, then you can get jobs waiting for you after you graduate. Otherwise, nobody's knocking on the door. Okay. Okay, here are your reflection points. Before you go to sleep tonight, ask yourself these questions. If you're actually going to, have something of a competitive advantage yourself, what can I do better? What are existing gaps in the market? Let's say, for example, what kind of computer science graduates are they hiring? What specific skill sets are they looking for? Or if you're running an organization, for those you hear that are in the nonprofit space, this applies to you as well. Because certain processes in the nonprofit space, generally a lot of different spaces, are being shifted out for automation. Right, here's some fun statistics. Right. So, the global and domestic AI landscape. So, artificial intelligence, it's no longer an experimental technology. It's becoming part of day-to-day life, as he mentioned. Today, AI is simultaneously reshaping productivity, labor, etc. So, but the problem is that our country is a bit behind on this trend. So 46% of Filipino workers use generative AI at least monthly at work, which is a bit higher than the global average, but youth adoption is especially pronounced. So most people that use AI are around your age. Coincidentally enough, university age youth. So why this matters is that AI changes how knowledge and work is produced. Generally, countries that adopt AI effectively will gain economic productivity advantage. And the key message is that AI adoption is no longer optional for national competitiveness. It is a necessary step we must all take in order to ensure that our country's economies remain competitive. So, job displacement versus job augmentation. Is your job going to exist, be phased out, or will it simply be facilitated further by AI-enabled workers? People that can work on tasks more efficiently because they have more experience with managing better tools, right? It's like starting a farm with just bare iron equipment versus having a motorized tractor. No, you'd rather go with a tractor because it's faster, it's more efficient. There you go. So you can take a picture of the slides. I'm not going to read all of it, but yeah. Key takeaway is that not all jobs will become automated, but a majority will be phased out in certain specific industries, especially some of those that you are going to be part of in the next 2 to 4 years. But the evolution of skills remains fact. Regardless if your job will not be phased out, priority will still be placed on skill sets that are adapted to a more globalizing, growing environment. Last thing. So you would think that as a service-based economy in Southeast Asia, even in other places in Asia like India, call centers are being phased out. BPOs are slowly being phased out. So you're thinking low-level jobs, minimum skill requirements. But no, even at the top end, big consulting firms like McKinsey, EY, etc., are all feeling the burn because the models that they took years and years to develop to identify economic shifts, to support their clients, etc., AI takes way less time with way more experience, with way more execution capacity. So even the consulting industry is facing a preview of the future first. So they have to make pivots into new job areas and job markets. Ayun. So some points on the ASEAN region. So ASEAN countries have adopted a principle-based, non-binding approach to AI governance rather than strict regulation. The reality of it is that what's going on in ASEAN right now is we are essentially following the Singaporean model, but just replacing the Singaporean parts with ASEAN parts. No, Singapore is taking the lead on a lot of these conversations, but we have to have our own direction domestically in order for there to be a cohesive pipeline on what AI actually means for the region and how it affects job markets, how it affects economies, and how integration can occur. Okay. All right. Last thing before I end. Am I on time? All right, cool. If AI changes work, then skills become the central policy challenge. The most valuable future skills are not purely technical, but I would argue they focus more on creating adaptive workers. So I will share with you a paper that was developed in the World Economic Forum. It's called Education of the Future. And this can help you identify which skill sets you need to build on to be more adaptable, to be more competitive, to have a fighting chance at getting the jobs that you want. So, data and AI literacy, understanding how AI models work, they're important, but they only constitute one of 10 pillars that were developed in this paper. I'll share the QR code later. What's more important are things like critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, working in a globalized environment, self-directed leadership and learning. These are all branded as soft skills that are not necessarily taught formally, but these depend more on your intuition as individuals. But these are things that can be learned and you can adapt into your own decision-making processes. Is that correct? Pwede nyo naman turuan yung sarili nyo maghanap ng internship, maging mas magulang sa paghanap ng trabaho, take courses that aren't mandatory, but it's on your own self-direction. No? I was just informed that this is like a self-directed learning week for LaSallians, right? So you have all the time in the world to get these things done. All right. Never heard of that, by the way. We don't have that in Ateneo, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So, some final insights. The most valuable workers in the economy will not compete with machines. You will collaborate with them. They will be AI-enabled workers. Three realities about AI is that AI will transform jobs faster than previous technologies. The biggest challenge is skills, not technology. Because not everybody will be working in tech, and not all industries are tech. The center point is still human-centered skills development. So what matters is how your skill set adapts to newer realities, to a shifting environment around the world, right? It's not about learning how to use AI. It's not about how you can integrate AI in all facets of your life. It's about developing the skills needed to navigate the way forward. And if the AI is included in that equation, then so be it. What matters more is less external, it's more internal. You have to be able to identify these things, think critically, and decide on your own, what skills do I need? What courses do I need to apply for? Let's say your milestone is to get a job, let's say a dream job. Dream job.
Like quant trader.
Where?
Plus a company that can pay well.
Just give me a company, man. Say Google. Google? So he wants to work for Google. He can't work for Google off the top, diba? You need to build towards that. How? Having strategic internships, having strategic job placements, getting the right people to endorse you, getting the right educational capacity, getting your masters, etc. You have to build towards that. You have to be doing that now. You have to have a 5-10 year plan prepared. Otherwise, when it comes to getting the career that you want, you'll realize midway that, oh no, I never thought about how hard this will be. I never thought that there would be so much competition. And if you have nothing, wala kang bala, you're done. But if you did your preparation, if you did your initial assessments, if you've done your homework, then you will be prepared, at the very least. You may not reach 100% of the goal, but getting to at least 40 to 50% is better than being at zero. Diba? He may not get his job at Google, but he'll probably get it somewhere that's closer to Google. Where would you rather be? At the bottom or in the middle? Middle. Right? Agree? But the countries that invest in education and human capital will benefit. So, big pressure on our government institutions to capacitate our citizenry. No? Institutions like TESDA, DOLE, etc. need to give young people like you the opportunity to reskill, to upskill, and to get the right pathways to get the jobs that you want. No? Okay. Alright, here's the QR code for that paper by the World Economic Forum. It's a good read.